So when I first started out in my first business, I remember I was so excited. I was having a blast. I was getting on. I was doing it. It was so much fun. And then people started asking me, how much do you charge? And I kind of like crawled back and went, gulp. Was it? I was going to ask 100. 90? 80? 70. Stop doing that if that's you today, okay? We need to have a conversation. Why do we get so petrified about asking for money when we're running a business that's supposed to be making money? It just doesn't make sense. And I know, I was there. So we need to get out of it as quickly as possible if you're going to start scaling your business. Today we're going to be talking about pricing, we're going to be talking about value, and we're going to be talking about how much you're worth, and it's a whole lot more than you think. And by the end of this video, you are going to be saying to your clients, please sir or madam, can I have some more? Can I have a whole lot more? And they're going to be saying, absolutely, here you go, and thank you. Do you know why they're going to be saying thank you and they're going to have a big smile on their faces? Because you are going to be providing them with multiple times more value than the price point that you put, even if it's a premium price point. Are you interested? Hit the like, hit the notification bell, and smash that subscribe button. I learned that phrase recently. I was doing my YouTube research. Smash. Quite proud. What? Get on the video. Okay, hit it. $100, $1,000, $1 million, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The point is, why are you worried about asking for money? Because this is a really important question. We are running a business. Business is about what? Making money. I know, it's not that simple, but actually it is. It's as simple as that. You are in business to make money. Provide service, provide a value, provide a product, provide all of these things, yes. Ethically, morally, yes. All of that, good. But why? Make an impact in a lot of cases and provide money in all cases. So why do we get worried and we just clench up when we start asking for money? And I think that it stems from the fact that, we grow up in this environment where, money is the root of all evil and all of these kind of things. And we grow up saying that money is evil. And if we ask for it, then we're going to be perceived to be, evil. No, you can use money in a good way. And we know that. And we've seen how many people, such as Bill Gates and other people, how they have used their money in such a good way that actually we need to start saying we need to make money so that we can get the freedom we want, whether it's financial or time or any of these things. We achieve what we need to achieve, but also so that we can contribute, provide impact, and give back. And when we look at it that way, it doesn't become so hard, does it? So now we come to the next point, which is, all right, so how much do I actually ask for? And this is where a lot of people stumble and a lot of people are underpricing themselves. And I know right now I'm going to say to you, go and increase your prices right now by at least 30%. Just do it, okay? Just try it and see 30%. Mark up your price and say, new prices, 30%. We're going to talk about a lot more in terms of how we position ourselves, pricing strategy, all of this down the video, but I see a lot of people just underpricing themselves. If you think that you're in that bracket, go and just increase your price and see what happens. If it doesn't work, hey, we can always sort of discount it and bring it back and all of these things. But 9 times, if not most times, it will work and people won't just blink an eyelid if you are providing the value and the results they need. Stop charging by the hour. If you are charging by the hour, we have moved into a world which is way beyond the Industrial Revolution, where people clock in and clock out and trade their time for money. You left and started a business so that you don't work by the hour for someone. So why are you trying to do that in your business? It doesn't make sense. You are providing a service or a product, and that service or a product is going to provide value and results. And when you try and identify what that is, that's where we can start now saying, right, this value that we are providing is worth this much. And how do we do that? A couple of things. If you haven't seen my video about customer target and market segmentation and all of that, have a look up here. I talk about when you start a business, who you're actually targeting it for. In that video, we looked at their behaviors, the psychographic stuff, all of that stuff. We understand their need. We understand their pain points. We understand what they need. So what we need to do is we need to say, right, okay, well, what do they stand to lose if we do not provide them this value or service? So if I do not provide them this value or service, what do they stand to lose? And actually put a monetary value on that. So if you are actually trying to go for a business to business, for example, and you're saying, I'm going to improve your business, and if you do not have this particular system in place or service in place or product in place, you stand to lose X over the coming period. Whether it's $1 million, this department or these people or this person, they are going to stand to lose 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, whatever it is. Put a number to it and actually say, right, this is what they stand to lose. So now you know that your service at least is not going to make them lose money, and it's going to be really important, because if they don't do this, they stand to lose this amount of money. They might have people being made redundant, they have, less clients, they have less products, they have less whatever it is. Find out what it is and put a number to it. And then the other side of that is you sit there and you say, right, well, now when I provide these results, A, what are these results? What are the outcomes that they're going to get? This is really important. You need to identify what is the outcome. That solution that you're providing them, according to the pain point, according to the target market, what is that value and result worth? What do they stand to gain? And the value that you're going to look at is the value that between what they stand to lose and what they stand to gain. And that gap there is what your value proposition is. When you try and put a price to that, you're usually putting a small percentage of that, maybe even like say 5 to 10%, where you're saying, well, if I ask you and I say, for example, I'm going to come in and I'm going to provide this service for you over the next month, it's going to cost you £20,000 and I'm going to actually, fix it for you. Most people will say, whoa, hang on a minute, $20,000, £20,000, why? That's just way too much money. How many hours are you doing? How many days are you going to spend? Let me break this down, line item it for me. That's if they even get to the point where they start trying to understand what it is. In most cases, they'll say, well, hang on a minute, no. But what you need to be doing is you need to say, well, actually, if your value that I'm going to give you £500,000 or dollars worth of outcome and results. So you, by the end of the year, are going to make $500,000 more, and I'm charging you $20,000 for that. All of a sudden, it seems a lot more palatable and it's a lot more reasonable when you say, whoa, I put in $20,000 and I get $500,000 back. That's a no-brainer. Sign me up. Let me do it. And it's that positioning and anchoring that you need to be doing. You need to start looking at several things. And this is where pricing strategy and psychology starts coming in. When you look at positioning, where do you position yourself? You need to start looking at your brand. Are you going to be a brand that competes at price? Because if you do, you're going to sit there and you're going to struggle. And you're going to sit there and then somebody else is going to try and knock the prices down, and you're going to go, okay, let me knock the prices down, and so on and so forth. And that's not the best way to be placing yourself in business. If you're a commodity, that's a different matter. We're talking now about a small business that's providing, let's say, a service or an innovative product. You need to identify what your unique value proposition is. What is it that you are providing that's unique in the market? What is it that makes you stand out? And how is that value and results going to be translated when you provide that service or product? And then you say, okay, how do I position myself in the market? I have got an example for you. I was actually consulting with a very, very famous sports shoe brand, household name. I'm not going to say which one it is. And I was walking in their factory and with their line manager, and he was literally saying to me, right, we want you to try and cut costs and improve the processes in terms of what you're trying to do so that we can get this shoe done at a cheaper cost. And I said, fine, how much are you pricing these pair of shoes? And he said, oh, this one is a brand new one. We're going to probably hit it around about $130 to $150 range. And I said, okay, so how much is it costing you? And guess how much he said it cost them? Just give a guess. How much do you think it cost? Half price? $50? $30? No. Around about $3 and something and change. Seriously, $3 and something. And I just looked at him and I said, well, first of all, why do you need me? Because it just, like, doesn't make sense. You want to cut costs on that even more. But then I said to him, but hang on, just why are you not, if it's costing you $3 and something, why don't you charge $30 for it and make 10 times your money, or $40 for it? And he turned around and he said, if we do that, we're going to be perceived as a cheap, low quality brand. Well, we want to maintain our position in the market, so that we need to be charging that much for it. And it's the same when you look at Ferrari and you look at other high-end brands. It's all about positioning. If you were to see a Ferrari or a pair of shoes that were being sold somewhere at a tenth of the price or even less, for like $5 or $6 for a pair of shoes, you will say that's probably fake. Or you will say there's something wrong with that. And we don't want people to say there's something wrong with your value or your service. So you need to start looking at how you position yourself in the market. And that comes back down to the target customer that you were looking at in this video. When you understand who they are, you understand how much they can afford to pay so that they can get these results. And this is part of when you're starting to try and identify whether your business is feasible or not. Because you could be saying, well, I've got this amazing idea. It's going to bring them $100,000 and I'm going to charge $10,000. Sounds fantastic, but it's for people that are unemployed and they are trying to find a new job, and I'm going to try and get them a job that has a $100,000 salary, for example. Great, but they don't have $10,000 to spend. One of the things you need to do is, when you're picking your target market, you need to try and identify, if I provide them this solution, are they able to pay me the amount that I want to charge, so that I can position myself in the marketplace at that particular point where it shows that I am a premium brand and I am someone who's providing a lot of expertise. Because remember, you don't charge by the hour because you're charging by the years of experience that you've had. Your price point looks at several factors. It looks at your cost. Make sure you're not losing any money. Really important. Look at your positioning and look at the target customer and what they are able to pay and able to spend, what they stand to gain, what they stand to lose. And these are things that over time you'll begin to get more comfortable with. The more you ask for, the more people psychologically will be thinking that, hang on a minute, this is more value. This must be much better. If I'm providing you with a service and I'm charging you, I come and I say, well, I'm going to do all of that for you for $200. And I charge $100 an hour, so it's going to take me 2 hours and a half. I'll cut down the half and it'll be $200 for you. And someone else comes and says, well, let me do this copywriting, for example. And this particular piece of copywriting, this will actually generate for you potentially $200,000 worth of sales. But I'm going to write it in a way where it converts. And I'm going to be using my experience, and I'm going to be using certain ideas that I know make sure that these things convert. And here are some testimonials, and here are some people, and here are some things. And for that, I'm going to be charging you $10,000. Not 200, 10,000 or 5,000 or whatever it is. Again, these numbers are not things that you should be sticking to. But the point of what I'm trying to say is that if I'm looking at that person, I say, well, that $200 is probably not very good, is it? They probably don't know what they're doing. They're probably inexperienced. Something's wrong. It just doesn't sound right. But if I look at the $10,000 and they're going to potentially get me $200,000 and I'm already turning over $500,000, those $10,000 to me are a no-brainer. And I would go ahead and do it. So all of what we've been really talking about boils down to just a few things, really. You've got your cost at one side of the spectrum, which is how much it's costing you to provide the product or service. And on the other side of the spectrum, you've got how much is this thing worth to your potential target market. And that worth is usually qualified or quantified in value. So how much value are you providing? And that value is usually quantified or qualified in terms of the gap that they stand to lose if they don't use your product or service, and what they stand to gain if they do. And that gap there is that value that you're providing. And somewhere in between the cost and the value is a happy medium, if you get it right, which is your price. And that price should be a lot more than what it's costing you, and it should provide a lot more value than what it's costing them to pay for that product or service. And getting that price point, like we've seen, is quite difficult. There's a whole lot of pricing psychology and pricing strategy and all of these things, but we only need to worry about a few key things. One of them being, how are you going to position yourself in the market? How are you going to identify and communicate your unique value proposition that makes you stand out and not let you compete on price against the competition? Once you've positioned yourself in that market, then how do you anchor that price according to the value, so that when the client sees that particular price, how they perceive it related to the value, and how you bring it down and you say, this is the value that you're going to get, this is the price that you should be paying to get this value, but actually you're paying a lot less, which is still a lot more than what it's costing you. And being able to understand all of these, you've got one last thing to have a look at, is make sure that your target customer segment can afford to pay. Because if they can't afford to pay for that solution, then there's no point, because yes, they can see the perceived value, but if they can't afford it, they just can't afford it. So make sure they can afford it. Make sure that you position yourself in the marketplace. Make sure that you anchor that price with a perception of how much value they're getting, and make sure you're providing a lot of value compared to what you're charging, which is a lot less in terms of the cost that you're paying. If you're going to increase your prices, make sure that you've sort of looked at everything first, covered all your bases, identified all of the different variables and factors that we've discussed in this video. And if you think it's the right thing to do for your business, then go ahead and do it. Don't let your mindset get in the way. That's the key one that actually stifles nearly all of us. And we sit there and we second guess ourselves and we undervalue ourselves. You are more valuable, and what you provide is a lot more valuable than how much you are charging. I can almost guarantee that. So go ahead, increase your prices if it's the right thing to do, and write down in the comments below, this is my product, this is my service, this is how much I'm increasing it by, and come back in a few weeks and let us know how you did. I'll be curious to know. I'm going to read every single comment and I'll reply to all of them. See you next time. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to write in the comments below what value you got out of this value video. Sorry, I couldn't resist.